guess it's kind of our last night.
Let's do something special.
Pfeiffer?
Pfeiffer.
And now it's time for America's #1 TV show, The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer on America's #1 network, UPN.
It's UPN. If you have no clue what this TV channel was, trust me, you're not alone. UPN was a collaboration between companies United Television and Viacom. Launched in 1995 by Paramount, it was created to compete with what I like to call the three-letter channels: CBS, NBC, Fox, and ABC, just to name a few. These were all free channels that you didn't need a cable subscription for. Instead, they were all transmitted over the air by local affiliates, and UPN was Paramount's hat in the ring. The network didn't last for long, unlike its competition, who have been running since the beginning of television. While it did have a couple successful programs, such as Star Trek Voyager and Everybody Hates Chris, it wasn't enough for the channel to stay afloat, so it would eventually shut down and be rebranded to the CW. But I'm getting way too ahead of myself. I'm not really here to discuss the history. There's a two-part video by YouTuber Connor Higgins I highly recommend, which covers the rise and fall in great detail. What I'm more interested are the animated content made for the channel, because nobody ever talks about them besides like one or two shows. Seriously, there are some cartoons here that have little to no documentation or discussion, and it's no wonder because, again, who the heck remembers UPN? I know, I'm just exaggerating. I understand there are many people who fondly remember UPN, but let's face it, it's a forgotten network and nowadays is considered a notable failure in television history. There isn't a lot of information on their animated programming, and it's a shame because a lot of these shows are actually really good. And with that being said, I have decided to watch and review every UPN animated cartoon, starting from their earliest shows in 1996 with UPN Kids, to the last of their animated content in 2004. Like every other network in the 90s, UPN wanted their own kids block. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't a success as they thought it'd be. Other blocks such as Fox Kids and Kids WB had a lot more quality shows and viewers tuning in, compared to UPN Kids, or UPN as they called it.
UPN Kids is open, starting Sunday, September 8th.
There were also other standalone channels like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network that were quickly gaining the lead in terms of popularity. In the end, most of the original programming wouldn't receive a second season, or just end up in syndication. Later on, UPN Kids would strike a deal with Disney to create the Disney's 1-2, a spin-off block from Disney's One Saturday Morning. This new block was where Disney Channel cartoons would go to air new episodes, such as Pepper Ann or The Weekenders. But I won't be counting those as they technically aren't UPN originals. In total, only 4 original animated shows were created for the UPN Kids block, all from 1996. So let's start this review already, I have a lot to say.
It's a super open summer on UPN Kids with The Incredible Hulk. A super open episode next Sunday on UPN Kids.
First animated show on the list is 1996's The Incredible Hulk. I'll make this quick. I'm not the biggest fan of superhero comic book media. I don't read the comics, nor do I watch the theatrical films. I never understood the plot or what exactly was going on. I mean, I get it. Evil guy trying to take over the world, the good guys are trying to destroy the bad guys, whatever. I merely just wait for the fight scene. Off to a really bad start with this video, I know, but it gets better, trust me. With that being said, it doesn't mean that my review of this show was terrible. The 1996 animated series is average to me at best. The series starts as a two-parter with Bruce Banner attempting to cure himself from transforming into the Hulk. Unfortunately, he starts his experiment at the same time as an intrusion from military major Glenn Talbot, I don't know, where Bruce is captured and taken into Gamma Base, a location where the Hulk is kept in order to be studied and eliminated. The first 2 episodes were alright, but like I said previously, these type of action shows aren't my cup of tea, nor do I have the utmost knowledge about them. I'm not saying they're bad, it's mostly me not being interested and having a difficult time sharing my thoughts. Yeah, I'd recommend it if you're a Hulk fan, but as for me, it's alright, although I'd rather just watch something else with more comedy or stylized visuals. Onwards to the next show.
Jumanji is ooping.
Jumanji!
Looking for adventure?
It's a game, right?
Need some excitement?
Is there anything here that doesn't try to kill you?
Are you game? Jumanji!
Sunday morning at 9 on UPN 38.
Ever since the 80s, it seems that every movie received their own kids cartoon on Saturday mornings. Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, Back to the Future, heck, even R-rated films like RoboCop and Rambo received their own show. That could never happen today. Could you imagine an animated kids series based on R-rated movies we have today? One movie would get the animation treatment on UPN Kids, and that is Jumanji. Based on the film of the same name, which is based on the kids' book of the same name, the series follows brother and sister, Judy and Peter Shepard, voiced by Debbie Derryberry and Ashley Johnson. In the attic of their new home, they stumble upon Jumanji, a board game that transfers the player into a jungle full of all kinds of danger. While there, they find Alan, voiced by Bill Fagerbakke. In order to leave the game, the player must solve the clues provided by the board. Unfortunately, Alan would never get the chance to read his clue, hence never figuring it out, making him stuck in the game. Thankfully, ever since his transfer, he's learned the in and outs of the world and would always rescue the kids whenever they're in danger. While the movie focuses on events from the board game colliding with the real world, the cartoon series focuses on what's inside Jumanji. 20 years before the sequel film in 2017 would do just that.
So that means I'm... Wait, Bethany, don't! I'm
Anyways, Judy and Peter need to work together to bring Alan back home, while also figuring out their own clues to escape the game. It's an interesting premise and helps expand more on the source material, diving into what's inside Jumanji. Some episodes have the trio traveling to different biomes to solve problems, being cursed with evil spells, and even episodes where characters and monsters from the game make their way to the real world and vice versa. The series does a lot with its new plot, while introducing new characters. Van Pelt, a hunter who wants to hunt Peter and Judy, would be brought back as the main antagonist. Alongside him, there is Professor Ibsen, a mad scientist who can control what happens in Jumanji. Trader Slick, the witty merchant who sells anything for reasonable trade. And plenty of other unique characters, good and evil, that were created exclusively for this series. I really love seeing their interactions with each other and what they get themselves into. Trader Slick, voiced by Tim Curry, has to be my favorite. With all the serious, threatening characters roaming Jumanji, you gotta have a comic relief thrown in there, and Slick does the job.
Whirligigs, thingamybobs, doohickeys, knickknacks, paddywhacks, and if you bring your dog around, I'll give him a bone.
We don't have a dog.
Then may I interest you in an Australian Shepherd?
The cast and characters were designed by the late and great Everett Peck, the artist behind Duckman, and Squirrel Boy too, but not many seem to be fond of that one. The show ain't that bad, guys, come on. Peck's design really do this show justice. It doesn't look too ugly, and it isn't too cutesy. The detailed and exaggerated look of the cast and world are like the right blend for an animated adaptation of Jumanji. There are some strange animation shots here and there, but the writing and cast of great characters alone really had me invested enough to watch the entire series. Yeah, I enjoyed it that much, but trust me, you're not gonna see me rank every episode ever. I couldn't. Not even gonna lie, I got a bit emotional in one episode, specifically the episode Gift, where Alan gets bitten by a venomous centipede, nearly dies, and starts hallucinating nightmares. Go ahead, call me a coward. I'm a sucker when it comes to heartwarming or sad moments like this. After all the insanity and tough work living in Jumanji, You start developing an affection for the guy and hope that he'll eventually leave the game someday. Out of the 4 shows made for the UPN Kids block, this one ran the longest with 40 episodes spanning across 3 seasons. Thankfully, the series would end with a proper conclusion. Yeah, it's a lame clip show, but in the end, Alan would finally figure out what his clue was and escape Jumanji for good.
Of course! I hope you like tuna casserole.
Like it? It's my all-time favorite. I mean, next to Crunchy Munchies.
You read my mind. We're having them for dessert.
The guy was locked in the game for over 20 years, he's earned it. I highly recommend the animated Jumanji series. A select few episodes have been uploaded to YouTube, but if you prefer having things physically, there is an official DVD set of the complete series, and it's real cheap too. Although it's only available in Region 1, so you may have to dress up like a pirate if you live outside North America. However you want to watch it, it's a fun show full of adventure and mystery. If you're a fan of the book, original film, or the 2017 reboot, then you're probably gonna like this animated series.
Hey kids, how do you spell fun?
B-A-D!
That's right, the Bureau of Alien Detectors is coming to UPN Kids!
Yes!
Bad never looked this good! The Bureau of Alien Detectors, coming Sunday, September 8th, only on UPN Kids!
It's the Bureau of Alien Detectors, or by its abbreviation, BAD. Now, this is a show for the big kids. BAD follows the Phalanx Squad, led by Ben Packer. The team consists of biologist Shane Sanderson, psychic Casey Taylor, the tech guy Colin Marcus, and the alien survivor Moose. The team serves to protect humanity from aliens and monsters. The series only ran for 1 season, consisting of 13 episodes. Ouch, I guess they didn't sell enough toys. I will say this, something that caught me by surprise was how intense this show can get. It's very action oriented, so expect a lot of explosions, guns, and big giant alien creatures. But one example that surprised me comes from the episode Grease Trap. During the intro, we see a group of teenagers hanging out by a campfire, average teenage stuff. One of them, annoyed by all the mosquitoes, goes to fetch some bug spray by the lake. While there, a creature would drag him and other kids into the lake and drown them.
Dylan?
Get real, Dylan.
Dylan? Dylan?
Like, damn, you really went there, huh? Typically with these types of action cartoons, the higher-ups want young kids to remain safe. Yeah, if they do something unhealthy or get themselves into trouble, they're usually alright in the end and learn their lesson. But not here. The teenage kids were never seen again, so we can assume this big giant creature thing just ate them up. They weren't playing around when making this show, and I guess I wasn't the only one who thought that. A year after the series made its premiere in 1996, a report would consider BAD as one of the most violent kids cartoon ever made for television. Despite that, it was never banned, and would go on to air all 13 episodes. Besides the controversy it had, I don't have much else to say besides the intense scenes and violence. This is your average Saturday morning action cartoon like G.I. Joe or Captain Planet. I gave a few episodes a watch and I can safely say this isn't made for me. I'm sure it's a great show to many people according to comments and IMDb reviews, but as for me, I wouldn't watch it with all the gritty storylines. But if mysteries, kicking alien butt, and good old action is your thing, then this is for you.
It's the premiere of UPN Kids! The Laugh Factory that brought you Beavis and Butthead is passing the torch. But make no mistakes about it, if you miss this, you're dissed. The Mouse and the Monster, coming Sunday, September 8th, only on UPN Kids.
So far, the UPN Kids animation catalog has mostly consisted of more serious cartoons. If you want a successful kids television block, you have to have some variety. Now, if you're looking for something with more slapstick and wacky humor, like I am, then you're gonna love this one. This is The Mouse and the Monster, created by Jerry Leibowitz. The series revolves around, you guessed it, a hardworking mouse named Chesbro and his music-loving friendly monster, Mo. They're on the run from a mad scientist, Dr. Wackerstein, who wants to capture his monster in order to revive his favorite pianist, Flatnotsky, to life. Not to rule the world or anything big, but more so he can listen to his favorite music after his passing. Alongside Wackerstein is his wife Olga, who is probably my favorite out of the cast. Her careless attitude and conversations are some of the highlights for me.
In the event of emergency, you are to howl like a dog and say bye-bye to your worthless lives. Thank you. Here are nuts.
Ow, my eye!
Eat them. Now! While I dance.
With a synopsis like that, I'm already in love with this series. Early reviewers described the show as a Rocky and Bullwinkle for the 21st century, and that couldn't be any more true. The clever humor and limited animation really drive that point home. In some episodes, there's even a narrator that commentates on what's going on.
Hot town, summer in the city. Our heroes' butts getting dirty and gritty as they prove that it really is hot enough to fry an egg on the sidewalk. But who would want to?
Heck, the scientist and his wife I feel were heavily inspired by Boris and Natasha. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jay Ward was a major inspiration. While Chesbro and Mo are on the run, the two are repeatedly searching for different jobs, places to stay, and things to do while Wackerstein and Olga are hunting for the two. Occasionally, the characters will come together to do a parody or fun standalone episode. One personal favorite being Coffee, Tea, or Mo, where Chesbro is given a single airplane ticket to visit his uncle in Florida. Mo would be snuck in using different luggage cases, and all kinds of comedic havoc would happen while being flown in the sky. The shorter 8-minute episodes like this one I tend to enjoy more than the 14-minute ones. It's so fast-pacing that do it most for me. While I do find the silly writing and visuals lots of fun, I wouldn't consider this the best UPN Kids show. That award goes to the previously mentioned Jumanji. But one of the worst things about this show is Wackerstein himself. He has perhaps one of the most irritating evil scientist voices ever. Not only is he always so loud, but even worse is when he starts laughing maniacally.
We have important work to do in the laboratory. I can fix this.
Okay, I'll stop hurting your ears. Now imagine that, but repeat it 6 times for each episode. It really gets on your nerves. Unfortunately, this is perhaps one of the most forgotten cartoons from UPN, as there are little to no reviews or discussion anywhere online. And it's a shame because I enjoyed this and would love to hear other people's thoughts on this one. Definitely give this show a watch if you're a fan of the original Rocky and Bullwinkle show, or if you're just looking for some silly 90s cartoon fun.
Do you think you guys will ever be replaced by computers? What kind of question is that? You know, we're one-of-a-kind originals. We could never be electronically replaced, right, Mo?
No way, Tesaruno.
And those were the animated programs of UPN Kids. Overall, I think there was way too much focus on action shows, but still a decent lineup of animated content. Jumanji and Mouse and Monster being my favorites to come out of the block. Unfortunately, UPN Kids proved to not be a big success they were hoping for, and so it was revamped into Disney's 1-2. With the failure of UPN Kids, the higher-ups would abandon original animation for a while. There was a new trend among TV networks during the late 90s and early 2000s, and that trend was, what if we produced animated cartoons for adults? Yeah, animation isn't just for Saturday mornings. With the massive popularity of The Simpsons, TV networks during this time wanted their own slice of success that Fox captured. Comedy Central had South Park, MTV had Beavis and Butthead, and the USA Network had Duckman. With this sudden interest in adult animation, UPN saw potential and wanted in. There were attempts previously, such as the Blues Brothers cartoon and the Clerks animated series, both of which were either cancelled or greenlit by a different network. So in this segment of the video, I'll be reviewing the rest of the UPN animated shows made for primetime television. Also, if you're enjoying the video so far, then give the video a like and perhaps subscribe too, please, pretty please.
It's January's other big event. At UPN, we call it the Super Bowl of Comedy.
It's more than just a clever marketing phrase, but not much more.
Dilbert, the TV series, premieres Monday on UPN.
If you ever looked at the funny sections of newspapers, you'd remember strips such as Charlie Brown, Big Nate, Garfield, and Ziggy. Hey, wait a minute. This is word for word what I said in my previous video discussing lost media of web cartoons. Shameless little plug, but check that video out after this one. Yeah, I've circled my way back to Dilbert. In that video, there's a segment where I talked about the long-lost 3D web cartoons. Short episodes that visitors of the former Dilbert website could download and mess around with. Pretty revolutionary for its time. Also in that segment, I brought up the animated cartoon show that aired on television, which just so happened to air on UPN. I swear, I didn't plan this. I wanted to review a network not many other cartoon reviewers talked about, and Dilbert just happened to be a part of it. Anyways, this is UPN's first successful attempt at primetime animation. As I stated previously, there was a time when every network wanted a piece of the success Fox had with The Simpsons. Previously, a deal was made to put together a Blues Brothers cartoon, but was cancelled during production. All that exists today are animatics, concept art, and some scripts. UPN wanted another recognizable IP for viewers to flock onto their channel, and in 1999 they would finally find what they were looking for, with Dilbert. Based on the comic of the same name, the TV series was developed by the original comic creator, Scott Adams, who would serve as executive producer. By his side, Seinfeld writer Larry Charles would help showrun and write episodes. Dilbert revolves around a white-collared worker who frequently deals with the absurdity of that is being an engineer. While intelligent, he always tries to figure out unanswered questions and tackle corporate culture. His pet dog Bert always seems to outsmart him and somehow know his way around everything. He's like a clever, quick-witted Brian Griffin. I love that little dude. Wally, the lazy guy who does no work but still gets paid in the end. Someone we all aspire to be. Alice, the hard-working female employee, an overachiever with a short temper. And the pointy-haired boss, the very dumb manager of the engineering department. A very one-note character but still shares lots of the funny moments. Bob Johnson is still something I reference a lot to this day.
If you say Bob Johnson, sometimes they'll go in the back and get a package for you. It also works with Jim Smith, but you have to get here early.
Don't they ask you for ID?
They know me here.
Similar to the comic, the series has an ongoing plot for its first season centering on the creation of the Gruntmaster 6000, an exercise machine. Engineering stuff such as making a prototype, testing the product, and marketing it have their own episodes. There is some filler scattered in between, such as fixing the Y2K bug and little people taking over the company. Yeah, it gets weird sometimes, but that's part of the Dilbert brand. I'd watch it all in order if the lore of Dilbert matters to you so much, but the clever writing makes it where you can watch it in any order without having to know what happened previously. This show is one of the funniest animated primetime shows ever. Something as boring as office work and a character like Dilbert, and turning it into an absurd 22-minute show is genius. But perhaps one of the coolest things about this show is the theme song. Titled The Dilbert Zone, it's a rewrite of the theme from the 1982 film The Forbidden Zone, and gosh, it's absolute chaos. Sadly, for unknown reasons by the network, Dilbert would get cancelled in July of 2000. But if you ask me, maybe it's a good thing it ended early. The series finale was about Dilbert getting pregnant with an alien hillbilly cow baby. Yeah, I have no clue what was going on in the writer's room for this one. But with 30 episodes spanning across 2 seasons, not a bad run compared to other adult cartoons at the time. Scott Adams would further explain his thoughts on the cancellation in an interview with Ground Report.
It was on UPN, a network that few people watch, and because of some management screw-ups between the first and second seasons, the time slot kept changing and we lost viewers. We were also scheduled to follow the worst TV show ever made, Shasta McNasty. On TV, your viewership is 75% determined by how many people watch the show before yours. That killed us.
Later in 2020, Scott would also claim that the higher-ups at UPN wanted to focus on an African-American demographic, therefore canceling the series for having a white creator. Despite many other shows at this time being created by white people and starring white actors. So this argument tends to not be taken as factual. The only culprit to blame is Shasta McNasty. It not only ruined the Dilbert TV show from getting a 3rd season, but it turned Scott Adams into a racist.
You're watching UPN, the United Paramount Network. Catching all new home movies Monday.
What the heck? Home movies? That was on Adult Swim. Quit spreading misinformation. This is the cartoon community you're dealing with. Well, you're partially right. Before finding success on ASS, the series had its start on UPN. I'll discuss more about the transition later, but Home Movies follows young filmmaker Brendan Small, a 7-year-old boy with a passion for filmmaking. Dealing with the struggle of growing up with a divorced mother, having an annoying soccer coach, and everyday kid stuff. Jason and Melissa are his best friends and they help Brendan with his films and daily struggles. Clips from their homemade films would play during episodes. When Brendan and his friends aren't making films, they're likely at soccer practice taking advice from Coach McGurk, perhaps one of the funniest characters in cartoon history. He's an absolute jerk to the kids, but the way he's written makes him so lovable. He frequently tries to offer advice but ends up telling life stories and ridiculous stuff in public.
Yeah.
I got that when I was 18 years old. I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
I regret it, because this tattoo don't come off.
Right.
Now, I have a tattoo of a cow's head because I love that cheese then. Don't get a tattoo. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Play soccer.
I
You know what
really
that is
should
right
probably
there?
get back on
That's
the
the
field.
woman from the Chiquita Banana. I got that tattooed on my chest. I'm an idiot.
Home Movies felt very experimental compared to other animated shows at the time. If you're familiar with the series, I'm sure you've heard what squiggle vision is, which for those that don't, it's that squiggly outline around the characters.
What the hell's wrong with you? Your skin's like moving around or something.
I believe I'm having some sort of seizure.
It was a computer animation style created by show producer Tom Snyder, and was previously used for other shows like Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist, and Science Court. I always loved the technique as it gave the characters life, especially when standing still, and it fits right in with the simple, colorful environment. While yeah, the animation style and characters are great, I can't really say the same for the dialogue. Don't get me wrong, I love the improvised comedy, but in this show sometimes it just drags on or the humor just feels very dry. The big exception is whenever Coach McGurk shows up. You're in for a hilarious interaction when you hear that distinct John Benjamin voice, but for everyone else it just doesn't hit the same for me. The series made its debut in April of 1999 and would end in May of 1999. Yeah, UPN gave up on Home Movies after a month on the air. This was due to the low viewership and negative reviews it received in its premiere. The first episode was panned by critics who weren't fond of the improvised dialogue, the low quality art style, and the weird way it was marketed. Home Movies just felt very different and didn't sit well with many viewers, especially on a network like UPN, which was still having a very difficult time finding its identity. While doing research, I stumbled upon a news article from Animation World Network, interviewing Tom Snyder explaining his side on why the show was cancelled.
UPN canceled the show because it wasn't bringing in enough male viewers. When the network initially picked up the show, they were trying to attract female viewers. Snyder comments, UPN was changing before our very eyes into a pro-wrestling young male audience. Cartoon Network bought the original 5 episodes and ordered 8 more to complete the season. According to Linda Saminsky, Cartoon Network's VP of Original Animation, we had a bunch of episodes to screen for Mike Lazo, Senior VP of Cartoon Network's Programming, and only by the second episode, buy it.
And he wasn't wrong. During this time, UPN started promoting more wrestling content as their biggest hit, WWE SmackDown, proved to be very popular with viewers, quickly becoming the network's new bread and butter. So UPN gave up on home movies after just 5 episodes. Despite the bad ratings, Cartoon Network would come in to purchase the rights to air the rest of Season 1, seeing lots of potential for their all-new adult-oriented block, Adult Swim, and the purchase proved to be the right decision. It received mixed ratings at first, but as more episodes were commissioned, it would quickly become a fan favorite. After 4 seasons and 52 episodes, the series would come to an end in 2004, with a proper finale to conclude everything. Home Movies nowadays is fondly remembered for all its quotable moments and beloved characters, and continues to be remembered today. Creators Brendan Small and Bouchard would go on to create other favorites such as Metalocalypse and Bob's Burgers. This is what you could have had, UPN, but you gave it all up for wrestling.
You're watching SmackDown, and just 1 week away from the sneak preview of Gary and Mike on UPN.
We're off now, we're flying, and there's no denying we're driving.
Okay, I know what some of you are about to say. But Kevin, stop motion isn't really a cartoon. And to that I say, shut up. It's animation, and anything animated is a cartoon to me, dang it. This is Gary and Mike, created by Faxbar and Adam Small of Mad TV fame. 2 friends with opposite personalities. Gary, voiced by Christopher Monahan, is an uptight, kind-hearted loser who wants to follow his ancestors' footsteps on traveling the Lewis and Clark Trail. Then there's Mike, voiced by Harlan Williams, a laid-back, sex-obsessed slacker who nonchalantly gets himself into risky situations. But somehow he ends up alive in the end. The series was initially going to be live action with real actors. That was until the producers realized just how expensive the production would be, so they ultimately decided to make it animated. Originally pitched to Fox, a pilot was animated by Corky Quackenbush, another Mad TV alumni who primarily worked on the claymation segments. Fox gave the green light for 6 episodes. Unfortunate circumstances would arise. Corky, the show's lead animator, would leave the project shortly after claiming he was more confident working on short films rather than full 22-minute episodes. Having been given the thumbs up and losing their lead animator, the team had to find a replacement fast.
We sold the concept to Fox and they paid for the sizzle. Based on that sizzle, Fox bought 6 episodes of Gary and Mike. Obviously, the animation is a lot less polished than the final product, but it has a nice run and gun look and feel to it. Unfortunately, Corky was great with small projects, but didn't have a handle on how to produce 6 22-minute episodes, so Corky was out. That's when we pitched the show to Will Vinton Studios. They loved the project and partnered with us.
Yeah, Will Vinton Studios, the company behind the California Raisins. Remember the California Raisins? Me neither. With the help of Will Vinton Studios and the thumbs up from one of the biggest networks on television, Gary and Mike had a bright future ahead. Until Fox changed their minds and canned everything. After being rejected, the series would get the interest of UPN. Dilbert was cancelled thanks to Shasta McNasty, and Home Movies was abandoned. In desperate need for more adult animation for their new, manly wrestling audience, UPN would purchase the 6 episodes from Fox and an additional 7 more. The show made its televised premiere in January of 2001, just in time for the new millennium.
What the hell are you doing on Fox? Gary and Mike should be on UPN!
I know!
Everyone knows UPN is off the mat, Gary! They've overtaken the WB in total viewers and adults 18 to 49! Your show's exactly what the goddamn network needs!
Gary and Mike follow 2 friends as they do America. Throughout the series, the 2 are being hunted by police officer Dick. Okay, I can't take that name seriously. I'm calling him Rick. Not for the reason you're thinking of, you know, with them being in a car and causing all kinds of havoc, but because Mike was caught sleeping with Rick's daughter, Julie, who intended for her to marry his boss's son in hopes for a big promotion. I absolutely love this show. It has the right amount of visual slapstick and realistic portrayals of the many locations they travel to. There will be one episode where they come across some prostitutes and then join a cult in seconds. Then another where they go to Washington working for a respected senator and end up burning his campaign to the ground. It gets wild. One minor problem I have is how similar the structure is. Like, it'll start with them getting angry at each other and go their separate ways, face their own situations, and then come back together in the end apologizing like nothing happened. You won't notice it at first, but it repeats itself over and over as you progress in the show. But to me, what matters most are all the circumstances they get themselves into.
Hey Rudy, help! It's me, Mike. I'm stuck in the Has-Been Hotel with the freaking Crypt Keeper, man.
No, I did not edit that. Gary and Mike went to Has-Been Hotel. I'm really glad they went with stop-motion animation rather than live action. For a show with so much surrealism and bizarre moments, it couldn't do itself justice with live actors. Take for example this one scene where Gary accidentally gets hooked on acid. It's freaking awesome. Of course, this is on a TV budget, so not everything can easily be done by hand. There are many instances where computer animation or special effects have to be used, such as for explosions, car chase scenes, or anything to do with water. Not really a complaint, but something else very noticeable are the character models, which are reused for different settings. Like, you have this old man working the register in one episode, and then much later you'll see him as a manager of a corn dog business. The series does have continuity, so it's recommended you watch it in order from episode 1, something that UPN didn't do in its original run. Yeah, I'll never understand why this is such a common practice amongst TV networks. Like, just play the episodes in order. Why they always gotta mix it up? Despite winning 2 Emmy Awards, the series wasn't renewed for a second episode. I couldn't find a source for this, but some fans theorize this is likely because of this being the start of UPN going through financial troubles, preventing them from funding additional episodes. Unlike the previous entry, Home Movies, no other networks were interested in continuing Gary and Mike, so the series was left to end after 13 episodes. It was never released on home media. Thankfully, TV recordings have come in to save the day, making the whole series available to watch online. Most of them are from the Comedy Central run, which cut scenes to make room for commercials. But if you search hard enough, you can find the original UPN airings from 2001 with commercials intact. You can even find episodes that have been on YouTube since 2006. Whoever it is that owns Gary and Mike do not give a damn about this show. Do they even know it exists? I don't know. I don't care. All that matters is that I have traveled the Gary and Mike trail. Now it's time for you to make me proud and do the same. Don't forget to send a postcard.
Gary and Mike will live forever. UPN is where it belongs. Let us help you hit the big time and we'll sing the profit song on UPN. On UPN. UPN!
Meet TV's first video game family, glitches and all.
Our daughter rocks. Don't forget it.
Game Over premieres UPN Wednesday, March 10th.
Rise up, fellow gamers, cause this is 2004's Game Over, UPN's first and only 3D animated cartoon. A bit off topic, but here's something I've noticed. Computer-generated adult animation seemed to be a big deal in 2004 specifically. This was the same year as NBC's Father of the Pride, and Tripping the Rift on the Sci-Fi Channel. What a weird coincidence. Game Over was created by David Sachs, who was previously a writer and producer on The Simpsons. They're holding hostage someone from your biggest show, Fox. Game Over is bound to become The Simpsons of UPN. Yikes. If you ever wondered what your favorite video game characters do when they're not being played, this show answers that. It follows the Smash and Burns, a suburban family living in a video game universe. We have the father, voiced by Joe Swanson, who works as a Grand Prix driver, Raquel, a covert agent mother, parodying Lara Croft, in which she finds treasures and goes on spy missions. Alice, a volleyball player who is against wearing revealing swimsuits. Billy, a 13-year-old skater boy who dreams of becoming a rapper. And Turbo, the family pet who's always cracking jokes. Pretty sure he's supposed to be some sort of exaggerated Sonic the Hedgehog. I feel like the writers really wanted him to be a Brian or Bender-esque character. He's always trash-talking others or being a pervert.
Any of you know where the icy chasm of disfigurement is?
Yeah, right here.
The series revolves around what game characters do when they're not being played. They go back to their virtual homes and live with their dysfunctional family. Now, where have I heard that before? It's an interesting idea for a sitcom, and includes many gaming tropes you'd see in video games. One of my favorite moments is their neighbor who stars in a shooter game, and whenever he is around, we only see his point of view holding a weapon and switching between items.
The missus hates it when I do that.
Well, you do have a tendency to get drunk and shoot stuff. Like everybody.
What are you up to, Rip?
Waiting to throw the old ball around with my son.
In a couple of years, he'll be too old. Cherish these days, Rip. Cherish them, soldier.
I just love the little details like that. But sometimes the references feel so forced, such as this random Crash Bandicoot billboard ad, which is like the first thing you see in the first episode. Or this kid wearing a Spyro shirt because video games.
You got a problem with that pussy?
But yeah, the main focus is the family and the problems that come their way. Most of the situations are typically not video game related. The 3D animation isn't top notch, likely due to UPN nearing the end of its lifespan, but it's passable. It's not on par with other 3D projects at the time, but for a show about video game characters, it captures the aesthetic and look of something from GameCube or Xbox. Some of the transitions are pretty cool too. I said some of them. The show itself isn't terrible by all means. It does share its moments, but to be frank, I'll take Dilbert or Gary and Mike any day. Game Over I feel like doesn't take advantage of the fact that its universe is a video game world, besides some references here and there. Now if you're looking for a decent video game related show, I recommend G4's Code Monkeys. A show set in the 80s about a staff of game designers working at a video game studio. You know it's made for gamers because it uses super retro 8-bit graphics for its visuals. Look at those epic gamer references. Whoa, uncensored nudity on TV, offensive humor and stereotypes. Everything a gamer could ever want. But perhaps one of the most interesting things to come out of the show was the PC game available on the former UPN website. What you're looking at right now is Game Over in Machinimation, a third-person shooter game built using the Quake 3 engine. You play as Raquel, who infiltrates an alien planet attempting to retrieve the alien monkey, an ancient artifact. The main game itself is very short, but there was even an online multiplayer option. But knowing how unknown this show was and the incoming death of UPN itself, the whole online multiplayer is empty, excluding bots that the game itself provides. The game has been properly archived, so you too can play this for yourself. In April of 2004, the series came to an end after a short run of 5 episodes. Episode 6 would only be released on the complete series DVD. The game was officially over, and with the loss of their final original animated program, so was the inevitable end of the channel. In September of 2006, after going through many financial troubles and suffering low ratings, CBS corporations would close UPN and sell off all their affiliate networks throughout the US. At the same time, Time Warner, who owned the WB, would also join them and close their affiliates. The two networks would then proceed with a joint venture to create the CW in 2006, which continues airing on TV nowadays. Most of the ongoing shows were either cancelled or continued airing on this new network. Today, UPN is fondly remembered as a TV channel for African American audiences. Some would consider it the golden era for black television, with shows like Moesha and The Parkers. And so, UPN quietly faded into obscurity. It was quickly forgotten and life moved on, as if it never happened.